Welcome back, and thank you for joining us again on another edition of The Slide. Our podcast aims to normalize important discussions that are required for our community, centered around topics such as education, politics, justice. However, before we go any further, what we want to do is also attempt to normalize something that is very, very important to us during this dispensation of time, and that's mental health awareness. Right? We want to normalize seeing individuals, seeking counseling, getting the assistance and support that we need to help us through our most difficult times. Right. So look into that. If you ain't got a counselor, get you one. And I would also like to take an opportunity at the start of this recording to honor the memory of one of our great elders, a legend in our community, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you for everything that you did for our community and for the movement. And I pray that God be pleased with you. Now, that's a lot of other stuff going to come out about this man, too. Right? We ain't even finna do that. It need to be code in our community that we don't disgrace our elders, regardless of what they did. Right? We got to always think about the things that they did. Right? And the things that they did to benefit us in order to be able to further and advance our communities. As we delve into today's episode, we are absolutely blessed to have an opportunity to sit with Miss C.J. Johnson. Miss C.J. Johnson is a transformational leader, a strategist, an instructional coach. Her work centers on authenticity, excellence, and sustainable growth. She believes in helping individuals move from potential to impact. It is an honor to have an opportunity to speak with you today. How are you doing today, Ms. Johnson?
I'm doing good. It's an equal honor to be sitting here today. As we were talking offline, this is my very first podcast appearance, so I'm excited to not only be a part of it, but to learn and to grow and to offer any information that I have from my experiences that can help somebody else.
Well, thank you, because that's what inspired me at the start of the show to realize that we needed to take a mental health moment. When you shared some of the things that you were sharing with us, I knew that this would be a good opportunity for us to provide the people with some information that'll help benefit their lives. Before we go any further, though, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the viewing audience so they'll know exactly who they're speaking with.
All right. So my government name is Carolyn Johnson.
I got Auntie Carolyn. Hey, TT, you better share it too. I got more Carolyn.
I am a native of Jacksonville, Florida, the oldest of 6 children to the late Lena P. Johnson. I grew up in the North Side, all around the North Side area. Graduated from Samuel Wilson High School, Wolfpack. All right. Yeah. Later went after graduation, went straight into the military, the U.S. Army.
Thank you for your service, battle.
Thank you for your service as well. Went into the military because I had no, other options. College was not an option. I barely graduated high school. And I tell you, barely graduated. So the military was that next transition for me. Did 3 years active duty, 6 years reserves, and then spent about 10 years in Nashville, Tennessee, just, doing my thing before I moved back to Jacksonville in 2008. And so from there, I've been teaching. Didn't know that I was going to be an educator. That was not on my radar, but became an educator in 2008, and there began my track. And I've been at just education, teaching, training capacities ever since. I am a mother of 3 beautiful children, 2 boys. Well, they're not boys anymore. They're grown men now. And then a 13-year-old daughter. So yeah, I'm enjoying life while also, you mentioned mental health. That's a big thing for me. In my own life, even though, I've been, a mentally strong person, emotionally strong person. I think those are some of the people that, look like they got it all together, look like they're handling things, but behind the scenes, are not realizing that they're struggling. And so my own experience in that regard, made mental health a big passion for me, especially amongst young adults, teenagers and young adults. So I'm serving them, that population now, and looking forward to continuing to grow and develop in that capacity so that I can be more of service to them.
Yes, ma'am. What was your military experience like?
Interesting. Mm, it was good overall. I've always said if I was the president of the United States, I'd make, uh, teens, once they graduate high school, do 2 years. I think provides a lot of discipline. It's a good transition between, again, adolescence and young adulthood. So they're able to walk alongside you and you learn some things while also, being able to get paid and save your money and, get ready for the next transition. It was good overall. But one of the biggest problems I had with the military is people not willing to share, the things that they were able to gain or obtain, during their military career, such as, being able to go to college while in the military, having access to certain benefits and things that you can, again, obtain and even prepare you for once you leave the military. So I saw people being able to, navigate certain spaces and do certain things. And, I would inquire and ask questions and, it was like, oh, well, I don't really, I'm like, you're doing it. So you got to know how you're doing it. Right. But they weren't willing to share, the information so that I can be, get some of them benefits for myself and be successful, once it was time for me to transition. And there was a lot of, politics and, foolishness going on. And, I looked around, after about 3 years and was like, if I really had to go to war with these people, I wouldn't trust them, And so I realized that was my time to get out before I got put out,
Yep. And before you got trapped into what the military really
right,
is.
right,
Because you figure you came to the military straight out of high school, right? So that's 18-year-old Carolyn,
right.
All right, so I did 21 years, 4 months, 18 days in the United States military, but they didn't get 18-year-old Tavares,
right?
They got 23-year-old Tavares that already had 3 kids, right? So I ain't have the leverage to negotiate what I was doing. I went and I ain't had no choice,
right?
Like I had to do whatever was required in order to be successful. But if they got 18-year-old Tavares, 18-year-old Tavares stationed somewhere like Fort Stewart, boy, would have had some fun. But I digress. As leaders, it's important that we understand that when those young people come to our care, we have to have a plan to develop them in order to help them be successful and accomplish their goals. But you do stuff like that every single day now, right? You're helping young people every single day. Could you share with us what it is that you do now?
So I work at Jacksonville Job Corps. Yes, we are open. Okay. There was a time when, the powers that be were trying to close down Job Corps, but we are open. The population is 16 to 24-year-olds. So we offer like 11 trades. They're allowed to get their high school diploma or their GED there, their driver's license, room and board. So you get, dormitory. We have food, everything. So they get everything that they need, similar to the military, just not, the teachings, the combat stuff that that the military has, but similar to the military where they're providing, vocational skills for you. So I am the trade instructor for office administration. So I teach the students who want to learn office administrative duties so that they can go and work in, any area. Whether it be human services, law, it doesn't matter. Everybody has an office administration team, no matter what organization. We also are, unofficially their counselors, their therapists, in some instances, reparenting, helping them to learn certain skills and emotional intelligence, being one of them, learning even empathy and, just different things like that. So I love it. It provides me the opportunity to be who I wish somebody would have been to me at that particular time in my life. Because I believe, again, I have no regrets, but I believe that if I'd had mentors or, someone to come alongside me and kind of, teach me some things I wouldn't have learned by trial and error in every situation.
What do you think? Because I think our generation all face similar challenges with regard to that, right? I think that we all, I don't remember being a child. Right.
Correct.
No disrespect to my parents. I just feel like I was always an adult. I feel like I've always had adult responsibility. I mean, if you get to have lights in your in your name at 8 and 9 and 10, right? That's real spill. I'm grown. You know what I'm saying? So I got lights in my name. Right. So I ain't trying to hear that about I'm a child. But what do you see? What do you think it was during that time period that prevented us from being able to have a parental oversight? I got a theory, right? But I would like to know what's your thoughts about that time period and parenting and just family during that period of time.
I don't like. I've always felt like I didn't have a choice. It wasn't a matter of you go learn to cook or not cook, and somebody will feed you. Like I never felt like I had a choice. So it wasn't. I think we were groomed, from a very young age to be responsible, it wasn't about what we felt. It wasn't about our opinion. It wasn't about how we thought things should go. It was, we were taught from a young age, you obey, you don't ask questions, you just do. And so we come from that space even now where it's hard to branch out and ask for help, to seek support because I got to figure it out. It's up to me to figure it out. If I don't do it, it don't get done. I, again, being the oldest of 6 siblings, it was sink or swim. Like I had to get out there and make it because I couldn't go back home, and be another mouth that my mom had to feed, or she had to worry about clothing and different things like that. So it was sink or swim. And so now being on the other side of that as a parent, teaching my children some of the things that I did learn, because there were things that were beneficial to me. I always say, if I had to choose one way or the other, it's easier to loosen up than it is to tighten up, And so when somebody's out there, you're just letting them run, wild, it's hard to bring them back in, right? So I would have rather had the childhood, or the upbringing that I had, and then learn how to loosen up and do things differently, along the way. And so understanding, my children, they didn't just babysit because I said I'm finna go, and I wanted them to have a childhood. I wanted them to have memories of playing with their friends, going outside, being able to eat certain things that they wanted. Come home and tell me stories about this person or that person in school. Talk to them about their feelings. Again, mental health. And I've always had it in my mentality that they're only going to be children for a short time, but they're going to be adults for the rest of their life. And so my goal was to instill things in them for who they were going to be as an adult and what they needed to do as an adult, not where they were as a child, right? And so their feelings were important. Their emotions were important. The things that they were thinking were important. Them feeling like they could advocate for themselves was important, Now, sometimes they had too many opinions. I had to tell them, I ain't asked your opinion on this one. But in other capacities, I asked them what they thought, how they felt, because again, it would be crazy for me to get on them when they come to me as an adult and say, well, this person is taking advantage of me, and every time I say something about it, they dismiss me, or they da-da-da-da-da. And I'm well, why are you letting them do that? When I was the first person to teach them to disregard their feelings, to disregard their wants and needs. So I didn't want to be that person, So I allowed that space for my children. But I think sometimes we can misinterpret, right? Or misunderstand, the totality of the situation. My mom wanted the best for me. She wanted me to avoid some of the mistakes that she made. She just didn't know how to go about doing those things. And so being an adult and then having children of my own and having some of the fears that I've had with them, I could understand why my mom, did the things that she did, even though they may not have always been the best, approach or the best way, to handle things. I hope that answers your question.
It does. And because as you're talking, you got my mind exploding, right? Because I'm thinking about a conversation that I was having with my mother about a real sensitive situation and the decisions that, parents have to make in order to equip their children with the resources to succeed, sometimes it goes beyond what is comprehensive in normal thought. It's something that I want to share, but I'm gonna wait until another opportunity to share, because it's just not the tenor of the conversation that we have. But I asked my mom one day why she made a decision. I try to think 5 times before I speak. Yeah, I'll go there. All right. I grew up in a very difficult environment. It was a lot of things that took place in that environment that will be questionable by normal standards. And it was an interaction with, my father in our household. Where I felt he should kind of, received a little bit more staunch admonishment for his behavior than what my mother instituted. That's a good way to say that. Hey, y'all go back and y'all run that back. That was a lot there. But I asked my mom one day, I said, why you ain't send that nigga to jail? Right? And my mother said to me, she said, because I looked out. My mama said to me, anybody from Carol City who hear this story, y'all might even remember this day. It was a day when my homeboy, his name is Robert Carr. Robert Carr had got arrested on the side of my house, and my mama watched Robert go to jail. And when my mama watched Robert go to jail, she just stopped beeping my beeper. That's when we had beepers, right? And she beat me. And I used to skip school all the time. And when she got on the phone, she said, where you at? And I was like, man, I'm in school today. She said, okay, I just was checking on you. My mother never checked on me. My mother never checked on me. That's why I said I always thought I was grown, because she never checked. But this one day she checked on me. And so when we were in this particular conversation, I said, well, why you ain't do such and such and so? She said, because you remember that day when Robert went to jail? She said, I was concerned about you. She said, I saw how all the little boys in the community who didn't have a father, how they turned out. She said, and I wanted you to have a father. So mothers, fathers, I know sometimes our relationships don't necessarily be what we want them to be, right? But always make the decision that's going to be in the best interest of your children. And it ain't nothing that happened in the course of your relationship that won't allow you to do what's in the best interest of the children. And y'all know I don't talk relationships. CJ brought it out, and so we're gonna continue to flush it out, right? Whatever it takes in order to be able to make sure them children got what they need in order to succeed, do that. That don't mean going broke bottom, right? Because that same father who she didn't send to jail to make sure that I was all right told me when I was in the 10th grade, I was getting ready. I was from Carol City to Miami Beach State High, and he didn't take me school shopping. So I asked him. I said, "Man, you gonna take me school shopping?" I said, "Man, we start school on Monday." That joker looked me straight in my face, and he said, "Cuz the people who you going to school with this year don't know the new clothes from last year." And y'all wonder why I dropped out. Stop playing with me, man. You ain't gonna have me walk around there looking like that. You know what I'm saying? But I grew up in that type of environment. So, but look how it turned out, right? And everybody who was a leader in my life thought that I was gonna be strung out or down bad. But I ain't. You know what I'm saying? We're ascending. You know what I'm saying? We're ascending. But I say that to say, so now, when you look at children and these problem sets and the things that they do, and you deal with it every single day, you're around children every single day. What are some of the things that you see in our youth?
So the biggest thing, because again, it's easy for adults, seasoned adults, older adults, to look at the behavior, right? And they label the kid bad. They label them disrespectful. They label them entitled, all those things. But they don't hear, right? While they're cussing and fussing and throwing a fit and doing whatever they're doing, you don't hear the pain. You don't hear the cry for, I want somebody to see me. I want somebody to hear me. I want to know that I'm valuable. I want to know that I'm important. I want to know that they care beyond what you say, right? Because one thing that we think is that kids are stupid. We think that they can't pick up on energy. We think that they're not watching how we moving. We think that they're not seeing how we behave in this environment versus how we behave in this environment, and they're trying to match it up to see that we don't understand that they see all of that. And so you saying that you're caring about me, but when I'm crying out for help, when I'm crying to be seen in a way that you don't recognize, you you can't hear me, right? And so what I've learned to do is to see beyond what I'm seeing and hear and see what's going on behind that. And so the place of where they want somebody to believe in them. They want somebody to raise the expectations, right? Because you said your mama never checked on you, right? Especially with boys. There's a space where people stop checking on the boys. Once they get to a certain age, they just let them, hey, you know, boys gonna be boys, men gonna be men, that kind of mentality. Or I feel like I'm not gonna be able to control him or, you know, guide him or whatever. So they just let y'all do what y'all want to do. And the reality is that I believe, again, the expectations of who he is or who he could be, it goes down. And so now I'm letting him just do whatever he wants to do, however he feels like doing it. And I think even though the young men or the boys, they don't know the language or understand what it is, they begin to regress or they begin to, their development is stunted because this person doesn't believe in me. They don't see me. They stop checking on me. They stop asking me about my grades. They stop asking me who I'm hanging out with. They stop asking me. They stop. And so it translates to they stop caring. That's what it translates to. And so if they don't care, why would I care? Right? And especially with the people that, again, we hear them say they love us the most or care about us the most. But when they stop checking in, when they stop asking the questions, the young boy receives that as they stop caring. And so in those critical times where he needs that care to continue to be there and he's dependent on that care when it stops, then he stops caring about himself. And so that's why we see, you know, the behaviors that we see, the people that they choose to hang out with, like all these different things is because they stop caring. And so we have to continue to be on our boys' behinds, you know, just like we are on the girls. And again, continue to have an expectation or standard for them to rise to. And it's not just about what they're doing, right? Because a lot of times, again, with boys in particular, they're identified and their value and worth is what they do for a living. You know, how are you making money? You know, are you able to take care of yourself financially? But again, raising the standard and expectations on how they care for themselves. How is your mental today? What you've been thinking about? What kind of thoughts have been, you know, rolling over and over and over again in your mind? What are you telling yourself? You know, when you make a mistake, you know, it sounds like it's funny and it's a joke that, oh man, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. Why did I do that? You know, but you're creating a narrative, you know, that you hear yourself. That's telling you that you're stupid. That's telling you that you're dumb. You're not stupid. You probably made a stupid decision, right? But you're not stupid, right? You probably are not experienced or you don't have expertise in this area. You might have to put in a little more effort, but that doesn't make you dumb. You know, we all have areas of growth and development that we have to put in a little more, you know, effort than we do in other areas. It doesn't mean that we're incapable or we're dumb or that we don't have what it takes. It just means that we have to work a little more, a little harder. And so the young boys for me just stand out the most and needing a support system and a village around them when they're young, you know, to continue throughout their teenage and adult years. Somebody checking on them and making sure they're okay, not checking on, you know, their bank account.
Right. Shout out to Miss Ingram, Miami Carroll City Senior High piano instructor, because she checked on me. But Miss Ingram, when you checked on me, you ain't know my mom was crazy, right? I skipped school one day, and I came into the band room, and Miss Ingram had a class at the back of the band room, and she said, "Why didn't you come to our class?" I said, "Miss Ingram, we ain't even doing recitals a lot. You know what I'm saying? We just come in and sit around and play chords, and you know what I'm saying?" I said, "Man, you seen me, you knew I was here. What's the problem?" She said, "I'm gonna get you." I said, "Okay." And at this time, that's when they had remastered telephone. I was like, "It ain't no way you can get to me because I got my own phone." Man, probably about a week later, my phone rang at 6:30 in the morning, and when it rang, it was somebody on the phone said, "This FPNL, we finna turn off y'all lights." I jumped up out of the bed and I ran and bammed on my mama door. I said, "FPNL on the phone. They getting ready to cut off the lights." My mama ran into my room and she said, "Hello? Yeah? Uh-huh. Thank you, Miss Ingram. When she said thank you, Miss Ingram, my heart dropped out my. I was about to lose my mind. My mama almost killed me that day. You know what I'm saying? Some people, it's the way you check a certain kind of way. Because listen, man, you can create some problems. But and we say that jokingly or jovially, and sometimes that's what we do, right? I say, oh, I'm so dumb, like it's a game, but I'm accepting it seriously, and it's preventing me from taking purposeful action.
Because the brain don't know the difference between you joking and playing and whether you're serious. And so that's why we got to be careful what we say, because we start creating, remember how we used to take the cassette tapes and we used to record the songs off the radio. That's what's happening in our minds. We're creating a cassette tape of narratives, statements that are going over and over and over again until it becomes habitual. So every time I make a mistake, every time I didn't see this coming, every time I'm replaying that thing over and over, I'm stupid, I'm done, I can't never get it right, I'm not enough, I'm unlovable, whatever that is. And so we got to challenge that, and it starts again with self. So stop saying I'm stupid. It's like, I did something stupid. Again, separating who I am from what I did, right? I'm not stupid. I did something stupid. That makes all the difference in how we show up in the world.
That's right. And we scientists, right? So you're not stupid. You did an experiment and it failed. You know what I'm saying? Now you go back, you analyze the variables that you used in the experiment and retest it again. And keep on going. We got to get away from feeling bad about mistakes. We got to get away from feeling bad about, on failure, right? We fail forward and we just keep on going. And I know we say stuff like that and it becomes like, like catchphrase. It's cliche and corny. But no, we work till you fail. If you ever spent any time in the gym and you ain't worked to failure, you wasted your time when you went off in there, right? So let's get back into the game of life and let's work until we can figure out some of these problems, because our children are suffering, and and what we want to do is we want to make sure that we equipping them with the resources that they need to be successful. And I think it was so beautiful that you articulated it earlier in your statement. We said the children are watching. They're watching what we do, how we move, how we interact in groups. They're developing their ideas about reality based on what they're seeing in us. And so you're always being monitored as a parent. You're always out front. And so remain out front. So as we come down to the conclusion of our recording here today, if you could give guidance to a parent, what would you recommend for a parent to help improve the quality of their experience as a parent and also improve the quality of the experience of the child?
Oh, that's a loaded question. How can I narrow that down? First and foremost, I said it before. Your children are only going to be children for a short time. They're going to be adults for the rest of their life once they come. You're parenting or you're instilling values and skills that they're going to use as adults, not necessarily as children. So what type of person is your child going to become? What type of values do you want them to believe in and live out, in their lives? And you're the first example of who they're going to encounter or how they're supposed to navigate. Home is the training ground. That's where we teach them communication, even effective communication. That's where we teach them how to advocate for themselves and speak up. Myself learning as a parent to be the type of parent that my kids can come and talk to. There were times that they were sitting there, especially my boys, sharing stuff with me, and I would literally have to purse my lips together and because I wanted to correct, I wanted to say this, I wanted to steer them down this road, and but I had to elevate me being the type of person that they felt like they could come and talk to. I needed that to be more important than my desire to correct or redirect behavior. Care about their mental health, continue to check on them. Ask open-ended questions. Don't ask them, how was school? Good. You had a good day. Yeah. And help them facilitate conversation. Again, that's how they're learning how to communicate as well. That's how they're learning how to articulate their feelings, their emotions or their needs, is by us asking open-ended questions, inquiring and being willing to sit and listen, giving them our undivided attention while they're doing so. And engage in things that they're interested in that you're not interested in. One of the things about love, we throw that word around a lot. I love you. I love you. I love you. Loving a person is not when they're doing the things that we want them to do, when they're saying the things we want them to say, or when they're interested in whatever we're interested in. Loving a person is being able to step into their world, being able to try to see things from their point of view, and sacrificing your time and your energy and your attention to something that means a lot to them. So whether it be video games, whether it be anime, whether it be artistic, endeavors, whatever it is, spend some time engaging with them in things that are important to them. And I think that those things would provide or help provide a solid foundation for them to continue to build upon. And it'll make them a solid human being by the time they become adults.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And if I just also may add, gentlemen, they also learn how they will respect women by how they see us treat their mothers. So I would like to apologize to the mothers of my children, because I know that we have had some rough times. I am traumatized and broken. And so don't take that personal. Y'all know what it is. I apologize. And I think that, take some time out today, bro, and call that lady and apologize. I was riding last night and I was listening to Tupac. He said, because if we don't, we'll make a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. Lord have mercy. That thing had me all messed up last night on that drive. So thank y'all for tuning in with us. And I would like to really, really be careful with the way that I end, because this city has been rocked by the loss of a very important figure. So rest in peace, Papa. Right, rest in peace, Papa.
Rest in peace.
And I just leave it like that. Thank y'all for joining us and riding on the slide. And as we always say, you can run, you can glide, but you cannot hide when you come here to the slide. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.